Project feasibility analysis. Feasibility, which can also be termed as workability, literally means whether some idea will work or not. It is the preliminary evaluation of a business idea, conducted for the purpose of determining whether the idea is worth pursuing. Feasibility analysis takes the guesswork, to a certain degree, out of a business launch, and provides an entrepreneur with a more secure notion that a business idea is feasible or viable. It means knowing beforehand whether there exists a sizable market for the proposed product, service. What would be the investment requirements and where to get the funding from? Whether and where from the necessary technical know-how to convert the idea into a tangible product may be available, and so on. In other words, feasibility study involves an examination of the technical, financial, HR and marketing aspects of a business on ex ante, before the venture comes into existence, basis. Feasibility studies also can provide a company's management with crucial information that could prevent the company from entering blindly into risky businesses. Business feasibility study is used to support the decision-making process of the business based on the cost-benefit analysis of the business or the project viability. Feasibility study is to be conducted even before the commencement of a formal business plan. A business feasibility study is heavily dependent on market research and analysis. The findings and recommendations of business feasibility study gives insights to the investors to judge the commercial viability of the project before investing their money into it. The entrepreneur also should make sure in advance that there are no major roadblocks in the way of success before launching the business or a project. As the name implies, these studies ask, is this project feasible? Do we have the people, tools, technology, and resources necessary for this project to succeed? Will the project get us the return on investment, ROI, that we need and expect? Basically, it is a cost-benefit analysis. The goals of feasibility studies are as follows: to understand thoroughly all aspects of a project, concept, or plan. To become aware of any potential problems that could occur while implementing the project. To determine if, after considering all significant factors, the project is viable, that is, worth undertaking. Importance of feasibility studies. Feasibility studies are important to business development. They can allow a business to address where and how will it operate. They can also identify potential obstacles that may impede its operations and recognize the amount of funding it will need to get the business up and running. Feasibility studies aim for marketing strategies that could help convince investors or banks that investing in a particular project or business is a wise choice. It aims to provide the basic information for effective decision-making with respect to the proposed investment. By showing the market potentialities, technical and financial implications of the proposed opportunities, the feasibility report enables the entrepreneur to accept or reject the project. It also helps to assist the entrepreneur in developing future plans for the organization and serves as the basis for measuring the performance of the proposed business. Feasibility analysis is different for different purposes. However, every feasibility analysis should consist of technical analysis, market analysis, financial analysis and environmental analysis. See figure. Market analysis, technical analysis, project feasibility analysis, financial analysis, environment analysis. Figure 8.1 Project feasibility analysis. Let us now try to understand each of them one by one. Technical analysis. The technical feasibility refers to the ability of the process to take advantage of the current state-of-art technology in pursuing further improvement. The technical capability of the personnel as well as the capability of the available technology in relation to the requirements of the proposed project idea should be considered and the extent of compatibility should be studied. Technical feasibility also involves the evaluation of the hardware, software, and other technical requirements of the proposed system. For projects concerning manufacturing activities, technical analysis is must. It lays out details on how will a good or service be delivered, which includes transportation, business location, technology needed, materials and labor. Technical analysis can be done by answering to the following questions. Is the technology proposed to be used the latest technology? What is the likelihood of the proposed technology becoming obsolete in the near future? Is the technology proposed to be used a process technology? Is the technology proposed to be used available indigenously? In case of imported technology, is the technology freely available? Is the technology proposed to be used cost-effective in the long run? Is the technology proposed to be used capable of producing goods and services according to the requirements and satisfaction of the customers? Is there any ongoing or additional research and development needs? Once you have explored the answer of these questions, you need to do technical appraisal. Only after getting positive response from technical analysis you should move further. Technical appraisal. It involves critical study of the following aspects besides technology. These are: 1. Scale of operations. This section needs description of the scale of operations and the estimated growth in the future. 2. Raw materials. It gives a complete detail about the selection of raw materials to be used, name and address of the suppliers, terms of contract, cost and quality of raw materials to be used. It includes information such as whether volume discounts will be available as your business grows or if you plan to manufacture your parts at some point of time. It also needs to mention if it's available locally or needs to be imported. If it needs to be imported, then the import duty and other agreements should be discussed. The durability of materials from which the product is made is also required to be considered. The detailed analysis of raw materials as an input of production has to be carried out considering availability, cost and quality. 3. Location of the project. Location of the business affects the success of the business, and thus it becomes important to select the location for the business carefully. The important factors which determine the selection of project location are following: availability of land, proper acreage and reasonable costs. The impact of the project on the environment and the approval of the concerned institutions for license. The costs of transporting inputs and outputs to the project location, i.e., the distance from the markets. Availability of various services related to the project, such as availability of extension services or veterinary or water or electricity or good roads, etc. 4. Technical know-how. It involves selection of the experts and the professionals for their expertise in required technical know-how to be used in the business. It also needs analysis of reasonable utility and the accepted rate of obsolescence of technology. 5. Calculating labor requirements. In this section, a list of the number and types of employees needed to run the business is prepared, which may be employed in the future as your business grows. One may break labor into categories if necessary: senior level management, office and clerical support, production or distribution staff, professional staff, i.e., lawyers, accountants, engineers, marketing, fulfillment, i.e., mail room, shipping department. 6. Possibility of collaborative agreements. If the organization plans to collaborate in future or as startup, then it should be analyzed in this section. Collaboration may facilitate the managerial, financial and technological availability to the organization. 7. Plant layout. A plant layout study is an engineering study used to analyze different physical configurations for a manufacturing plant. Plant layout is the most effective physical arrangement, either existing or in plans of industrial facilities. These may be arrangement of machines, processing equipment and service departments to achieve greatest coordination and efficiency of 4 M's, men, materials, machines and methods, in a plant. The adequate layout may help in smooth operations of manufacturing. 8. Project scheduling and implementation. It should describe the project implementation schedule. The schedule is an important time management document that defines and schedules the major phases of project work being carried out to fulfill the desired project objectives and achieve the expected outcomes. The well-documented scheduling may facilitate smooth process of production. 9. Product design. The product design refers to functional design of the product and the attractiveness in appearance. It involves flexibility, permitting ready modification of the external features of the product to meet demands or technological and competitive changes. It should have descriptions of how will users use and buy the product. It also needs description of how the product can be expanded and modified in future. The results of these investigations provide a basis for deciding whether a new venture is feasible from technical point of view or not. Market feasibility analysis. This is one of the most important sections of the feasibility study as it examines the marketability of the product or services and convinces investors that there is a potential market for the product or services. If a significant market for the product or services cannot be established, then there is no project. Market feasibility is all about how will the real-world market be reacting towards a particular development. It is concerned with gaining the in-depth knowledge and doing a deep analysis of market and knowing how is the target market going to respond towards particular product. Assembling and analyzing relevant information about the marketability of new venture are essential for judging its potential success. Market feasibility studies should include a description of the industry, current market analysis, competition, anticipated future market potential, potential sources of revenue, and sales projections. Three major areas in this type of analysis are investigating the full market potential and identifying customers for goods or services, analyzing the extent to which the enterprise might exploit this potential market, using market analysis to determine the opportunities and risks associated with the venture. To address these areas, various sources can be used like market data of customers' demand patterns, seasonal variations in demand, government policies affecting demand, range of prices of substitutes goods, complementary goods and the prices of competitors' goods, customer spending and purchasing power, major competitors and the competitive strength. Market feasibility can be tested by following the below steps, see Figure 8.2. Industry analysis, demand of the product, potential markets, customer segmentation and targeting, marketing strategies, costs, pricing methods and profitability, competitors analysis. Figure 8.2 Steps in market feasibility analysis. 1. Industry analysis. While conducting industry analysis, the entrepreneur should describe the industry in which the entrepreneur wishes to enter. She should also ascertain the size of the industry and the market share expected, growth rate expected and the outlook. It should also reflect the trends of demand and supply factors and a brief description about the forces that drive the market, whether it be innovations, cultural changes or regulations. 2. Demand of the product. It involves investigating and forecasting the demand of the product in advance by using methods like expert's opinion, customer's survey, sales forecasts, trend analysis, Delphi method, jury of expert method, etc. The forecasting of demand will facilitate in ascertaining the current and future demand patterns, seasonal variations in demand, purchasing power of the target market, government policies affecting demand. It also should provide description of what level of actual product demand can be ascertained correctly. Some of the demand forecasting techniques are as follows. Jury of expert method. The researcher identifies the experts on the commodity whose demand forecast is being attempted. She further probes with them on the likely demand for the product in the forecast period. This method consists of securing views of the salesman and/or sales management personnel. There may be many variations. The entrepreneur has to ascertain precise demand condition with the help of the expert. Delphi method. The Delphi method is a facilitated process of gaining consensus within a group of anonymous participants. The facilitator sends a forecast questionnaire to each member of the Delphi group. Anonymity is critical in this method to prevent a few group members from dominating the decision. When the questionnaire is returned, the responses are statistically summarized and then sent back out to the group. Under Delphi method, opinions are collected from experts and efforts are made to match them. Market experiments. Market experiments, actual or simulated, are performed to generate demand forecasts. A potential problem with survey method is that survey responses may not translate into actual consumer behavior. Consumers do not necessarily do what they say that they are going to do. This weakness can partially be overcome by use of market experiments designed to generate data prior to the full-scale introduction of a product or implementation of a policy. Trend analysis. Under this method, the demand is forecasted by analyzing past records of sales data of the target customers. In this method, a large amount of reliable data is required for forecasting demand. In addition, this method assumes that the factors, such as sales and demand, responsible for past trends would remain the same in future. Survey method. Survey method is one of the most common and direct methods of forecasting demand in the short term. This method encompasses the future purchase plans of consumers and their intentions. In this method, an organization conducts surveys with consumers to determine the demand for their existing products and services and anticipate the future demand accordingly. 3. Potential markets. Potential market is the part of the total population that has shown some level of interest in buying a particular product or service. This section aims at identifying the market potential and who will buy the product. The entrepreneur makes a detailed analysis of market and the products and determines the potential market accordingly. 4. Customer segmentation and targeting. A target market is the specific group of people you want to reach with your marketing strategy. They are the people who are most likely to buy your products or services, and they are united by some common characteristics, like demographics and behaviors. Knowledge of the target market provides a basis for determining the appropriate marketing action strategy that will effectively meet its needs. The defined target market will usually represent one or more segments of the entire market. The entrepreneur should also distinguish between end users of the products and its customers. Market segmentation means dividing the whole population into small homogeneous groups on the basis of demographics factors such as age, income, occupation, gender, etc. The geographical factors, psychographic factors and relevant behavioral factors such as frequency of purchases, reasons for buying the product are considered. Considering these factors, the entrepreneur responds more effectively to the needs of more homogeneous consumers. It is essential to identify the target market segment in order to judge the feasibility of the product in the market. 5. Marketing strategies. The marketing mix is a crucial tool to help understand what the product or service can offer and how to plan for a successful product offering. It means formulating various strategies with regard to marketing mix of the firm, i.e., formulating strategies concerning the 4 Peter-seconds product mix, price mix, promotion mix and place mix, which are discussed in detail in Chapter 6. 6. Cost, pricing methods and profitability. It involves ascertaining various costs involved in marketing of the product and the method which will be used to calculate and fix the price of the product. Price is the revenue generated by the firm, therefore the entrepreneur must analyze the cost, price and profitability to obtain the expected amount of profit. 7. Competitors analysis. Competitor analysis refers to an assessment of the strengths and weaknesses of current and potential competitors relative to those of your own product or service. A competitive analysis is a critical part of market feasibility analysis. It should describe both the direct and indirect competition. It should also identify the key competitors of the business and their market share, their strategies, strengths and weaknesses. It should give details about how their product can be differentiated by that of competitors and is their product able to meet the unmet needs of the customers in a unique way. The entrepreneur should also aim to determine the possible reactions of the competitors on their product launch and the estimation of the time required by the competitors to imitate your product, service. Entrepreneur should also describe strategies to respond to these reactions. It is needless to mention here that market feasibility analysis gives green signal to go further. If market analysis says that the project is not viable, the project is to be dropped then and there. If market feasibility analysis gives possible indication to go further, then you need to do financial analysis. Financial analysis. Financial analysis is the process of evaluating businesses, projects, budgets, and other finance-related transactions to determine their performance and suitability. Typically, financial analysis is used to analyze whether an entity is stable, solvent, liquid, or profitable enough to warrant a monetary investment. The primary purpose of doing a financial analysis of a project is to evaluate the project's profitability or cost-effectiveness relative to some alternative project or investment. Frequently, the results of the financial analysis are used to compare alternative projects to select which ones should be implemented. Financial analysis will include analysis of data with regard to capital requirements. It refers to the fixed capital requirement of the project and its time frame during which the capital will be required. Various components of capital cost of a project business are land and building, plant and machinery, electricals, transportation, knowledge and consultancy fees, miscellaneous assets, preliminary expenses, margin money for working capital. 2. Sources of capital. There are various sources with which capital can be generated, which are as follows. Ordinary shares, preference shares having predetermined rate of dividend, debentures, bonds, term loans, deferred credits, capital investment subsidy, lease financing, public deposits, etc. Before selecting any of these options, the entrepreneur has to carefully analyze the costs of raising capital from these sources. Cost of capital can be calculated as follows. I. Cost of equity capital. The cost of equity is the return, often expressed as a rate of return, a firm is required to pay to its equity shareholders, to compensate for the risk they undertake by investing their capital. It is calculated as, where D*1 equals dividend per share and place equals market price of equity share. If the dividend is expected to grow at a rate of G% every year, then the cost of equity capital will be calculated as E. Cost of debt capital. The cost of debt is the effective interest rate a company pays on its debts. It is the cost of debt, such as bonds and loans, among others. It is calculated as, where CD equals after-tax cost of debt, C equals before-tax cost of debt, T equals tax rate, E. Cost of retained earnings. The cost of retained earnings is the earnings foregone by the shareholders. In other words, the opportunity cost of retained earnings may be taken as the cost of retained earnings. It is equal to the income that the shareholders could have otherwise earned by placing these funds in alternative investments. The formula for calculating this is the same as that of cost of equity. IV. Cost of preference share capital. Cost of preference share capital is that part of cost of capital in which we calculate the amount which is payable to preference shareholders in the form of dividend with fixed rate. Where CP equals cost of preference share div equals stated preference dividend P equals issue price of preference share. V. Weighted average cost of capital. Weighted average cost of capital is the sum of all the above costs. It is calculated when the entrepreneur uses more than one sources of finance. 3. Working capital. Working capital is the difference between a company's current assets, such as cash, accounts receivable and inventories of raw materials and finished goods, and its current liabilities, such as accounts payable. It is basically the analysis of firm's liquidity position. Companies are required to make analysis of working capital requirements at various stages of the project as well as day-to-day expenses. It helps to ascertain the requirements of cash by ascertaining the time periods required for raw materials procurements to work in progress to selling the goods and finally realizing money from the debtors. Longer the time taken to convert raw materials into sales realization, higher shall be the required working capital. Various stages of working capital requirement are as follows. Figure 8.3. Raw material procurement, sales realization, work in progress, debtors, goods. Figure 8.3 Working capital cycle, financial history, if any. Potential sources of funds like debt financing or equity financing or other lending institutions. Required borrowing capital, repayment conditions. Fixed and variable costs, projected profitability and return on investments. Financial analysis such as profit and loss analysis, your income statement that subtracts the costs of the business from the earnings over a specific period of time, typically a quarter or a year. It is recommended to show income statement of initial 3 years where first year's projections will be made on monthly or quarterly basis and second and third year's projections on annual basis. In preparation of the pro forma income statement, sales by month must be calculated first. As indicated above, sales may be projected using many different techniques. The pro forma income statements also provide projections of all operating expenses for each of the months during the first year. Cash flow analysis. Cash flow is not the same as profit. Profit is the result of subtracting expenses from sales, whereas cash flow results from the difference between actual cash receipts and cash payments. An overview of the cash you anticipate will be coming into your business based on sales forecasts, minus the anticipated cash expenses of running the business. It is also called the income statement of the project. It is recommended to show cash flows of initial 3 years where first year's projections will be made on monthly or quarterly basis and second and third year's projections on annual basis. Break-even analysis demonstrates the point when the cost of doing business is fully covered by sales. The break-even analysis helps you in determining what do you need to sell, monthly or annually, to cover your costs of doing business. You need to determine the break-even point. To calculate break-even point, the entrepreneur should determine variables like selling price, variable cost and fixed cost of the product. It gives the quantity that a firm should sell in order to be in no profit no loss situation. Balance sheet. The entrepreneur should also prepare a projected balance sheet depicting the condition of the business at the end of the first year. In other words, it tells the entrepreneur a measure of the company's solvency. The balance sheet will require the use of the pro forma income and cash flow statements to help justify some of the figures. Assumed and anticipated balance sheet of the project's financials is required to be prepared. This includes including assets that represents everything that is owned by the company, liabilities which represents everything that the company owes to creditors, and equity which represents excess of assets over liabilities. Balance sheet should be projected for the initial 3 years. Every business transaction affects the balance sheet, but because of the time and expense, as well as need, it is common to prepare balance sheets at periodic intervals, i.e., quarterly or annually. Thus, the balance sheet is a picture of the business at a certain moment in time and does not cover a period of time. Ratio analysis. It gives various ratios regarding the profitability and viability of business and associated risks by calculating returns on investment, debt-equity ratio, etc. Various important ratios are I. Performance drivers. A. Return on shareholders' funds, % equals net profit, after and tax, shareholders' funds. B. Return on total assets, % operating profit before interest total assets. E. Profitability drivers. Net profit A. Net margin, % equals sales. Gross profit B. Gross margin, % sales. Overhead costs C. Overhead costs, % sales. 111. Assets efficiency. Sales A. Capital, net assets turnover equals net assets. B. Debtor turnover sales debtors. Sales C. Fixed assets turnover fixed assets. IV. Liquidity drivers. Current assets A. Current ratio equals current liabilities. B. Quick ratio current assets excluding stock current liabilities. Risk drivers. A. Margin of safety sales break-even sales. After getting positive result from financial analysis, you are determined that the proposed project is more likely to be potentially profitable. Environmental analysis and regulations. You have learnt about technical feasibility, market feasibility and financial analysis. Let us now learn about the environmental analysis and regulation. The external environment consists of a general environment and an operating environment. The general environment consists of the economic, political, cultural, technological, natural, demographic and international environments in which a company operates. The operating environment consists of a company's suppliers, customers, market intermediaries who link the company to its customers, competitors and the public. Both the general and operating environments provide business opportunities. harbor uncertainties and generate risks to which a business must adapt. The environmental analysis refers to conditions and factors external to the company which are outside of the company's control, that might affect its sales, market, costs, and so forth. These are often grouped into kinds of factors, such as the common, which stands for political, economic, social, technological and legal factors that might affect the company. It can be analyzed by SWOT analysis. It aims at highlighting non-economic factors that may affect the performance of the firm. It includes factors such as government policies with regard to particular industry, government incentives for special zones for location of the plant, waste disposable plans, if required, political stability, environment regulations, regulations related to operations of the business. An organization relies on strengths to capture opportunities and recognize weaknesses to avoid becoming a victim of environmental threats. A company performs an environmental analysis to gain an understanding of these strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. The company then gathers information about the selected set of environmental factors that are most likely to impact business operations. For example, the company might review government and industry reports and surveys that relay information about trade barriers that companies face in particular countries. Various techniques of environmental analysis are as follows. SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is a method used to evaluate the business strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Using a SWOT analysis helps to identify areas that business can improve and maximize opportunities present in the environment, while simultaneously determining negative factors, threats, that might hinder the chances of success. New businesses should use a SWOT analysis as a part of their planning process. There is no one-size-fits-all plan for your business, and thinking about your new business in terms of its unique SWOT will put you on the right track right away. Opportunity, strengths, SWOT analysis, weakness, threats. Figure 8.4 SWOT analysis. 1. Strengths. Internal. Positive factors. Strengths describe the positive attributes, tangible and intangible, internal to your organization. They are within your control. It can be the competitive advantage over competitors, new technology, etc. 2. Weakness. Internal. Negative factors. Weaknesses are aspects of your business that detract from the value you offer or place you at a competitive disadvantage. You need to enhance these areas in order to compete with your best competitor. It aims at analyzing what lacks in your business model, is your location or technology poor, etc. 3. Opportunities, external. Positive factors, opportunities are external. Attractive factors that represent reasons your business is likely to prosper. 4. Threats, external. Negative factors, threats include external factors beyond your control that could place your strategy, or the business itself, at risk. You have no control over these, but you may benefit by having contingency plans to address them if they should occur. PESTLE analysis. There are many companies the world over that conduct PESTLE analysis on their brands in order to ascertain strategies for the future or else to understand the market before launching them. It is a fundamental tool of market planning and strategizing that must be carried out to comprehend market trends and the systematic risks involved. It is an acronym for political, economic, social, technological and legal factors. Let us learn them. Political factors, ecological factors, social factors, PESTLE analysis, legal factors, technological factors, economic factors. Figure 8.5 PESTLE analysis. 1. Political factors. It refers to various regulations and policies framed by the government like initiatives taken, subsidies provided, duties imposed, any other special policies with regard to particular industry, etc. It is also affected by various factors such as the party in power, attitude towards the business, political stability and the form of government. 2. Economic factors. It includes factors such as GDP, income of the consumer, their purchasing power, standard of living, inflation rates, disposable income, exchange rates, interest rates, unemployment rates, money supply, etc. 3. Social cultural factors. It includes factors such as lifestyles and attitudes of the customers, cultural backgrounds, social classes and status, concern for fitness and healthy diets, postponement of having children, consumption pattern of people, tastes and preferences, etc. of the target market. 4. Technological factors. It involves study of various technological changes, investments in research and development, state of technology development, innovation level, etc. 5. Legal factors. It involves study of various laws like consumer protection laws, labor laws, product safety issues, competition laws, etc. 6. Ecological factors. It includes various policies with regard to climate changes, wastage disposal laws, land, water and air pollution, global warming and greenhouse effects, etc. QUEST. QUEST is an acronym for Quick Environment Scanning Technique. This method uses scenarios building for environmental analysis. 1. Managers make observations about major events and trends in the environment. 2. They speculate on wide range of issues that are likely to affect the future of the organization. 3. A report is prepared summarizing the issues and their implications NS to the firm's 2 or 3 scenarios. 4. The report of scenarios is required by strategy part based on which they identify feasible options. CPM. CPM is an acronym for Competitive Profile Matrix. The Competitive Profile Matrix, CPM, is a tool that compares the firm and its rivals and reveals their relative strengths and weaknesses. In order to better understand the external environment and the competition in a particular industry, firms often use CPM. It starts with assigning weights to various critical factors indicating the importance of success for each critical factor. After assigning the weights, the rating is assigned to the firm and competitors based on the factor ranging from 1, major weakness, to 4, major strength. The score is the result of weight multiplied by rating. Each company receives a score on each factor. Total score is simply the sum of all individual score for the company. The firm that receives the highest total score is relatively stronger than its competitors. ETOP analysis. Environment Threat and Opportunity, ETOP, analysis is a management tool that analyzes environmental information and determines the relative impact of threats and opportunities for the systematic evaluation of the environment. ETOP process involves dividing the environment into different environmental sectors and then analyzing the impact of each sector on the organization. ETOP gives a clear picture to the strategies about each aspect of the business environment, the various individual factors within each sector which affect the business favorably or otherwise. It consists of a 3-step process. List all environmental factors. Access impact of each factor. Get a big picture. It provides a clear picture of all the environmental factors and shows which factors have a favorable impact and which have an adverse impact. Environmental factors. Nature of impact. Impact of the sector. Economic factors. Rising income levels. Price competition. Social factors. Changes in lifestyle. Changes customers' tastes in. Technological factors. Product becomes unique. Acquisition of new. Customer behavior. Suppliers' technology and expenses needed. Loyalty in purchase. Buyers' preferences for differentiated goods. High input costs. Improved quality.